Have you ever wondered, Jesus, the man who changed the course of human history, where was he and what was he doing during those missing 18 years between the ages of 12 and 30? In the Bible, we know today that entire period is a blank. At age 12, we see him in the temple, amazing the teachers with his wisdom. And then, silence. The next time he appears, he's already 30, standing by the Jordan River, being baptized by John, ready to begin his ministry. 18 years, completely gone. For anyone, that's the most important time of growth. But for someone called the Son of God, that gap has puzzled scholars, believers, and historians for thousands of years. But what if those lost years weren't really lost? What if they were actually written down? Not in the Bible we know, but in an ancient one that time forgot. Today, we're going to explore this mystery together. Follow me to the highlands of East Africa, to Ethiopia, a country with one of the oldest unbroken Christian traditions on earth. A place filled with stories few have ever heard, stories about Jesus, and the hidden 18 years of his life. 1. The blank years of the Bible. Anyone who knows the Bible remembers the early story. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, laid in a manger. Wise men came to visit him. Angels sang in the night. Later, his family fled to Egypt to escape King Herod. When he was 12, they returned to Jerusalem, where he spoke with the teachers in the temple and amazed everyone with his understanding. And then, the story stops. For 18 whole years, nothing. From a gifted child to a powerful teacher and miracle worker, we're told nothing about how that transformation happened. No details of his learning, his struggles, his journey. Why? Were those years really unimportant? Or did someone have a reason to leave them out? 2. Ethiopia, the overlooked guardian of faith. To find the answer, we need to look at Ethiopia. This country's Christian history is older than Europe's. As early as 330 AD, Ethiopia made Christianity its official religion, while most of Europe was still worshiping pagan gods. What's even more special is that Ethiopia was never fully colonized. Its faith developed almost completely independent from the Roman Church or Western traditions. Because of that, their Bible is different. The Protestant Bible has 66 books. The Catholic Bible has 73. But the Ethiopian Bible? It has 81. Those extra books include many texts that disappeared elsewhere long ago. Some even banned or left out on purpose. And in those forgotten writings, there are stories about Jesus' childhood, his youth, and even his early adult years. Stories most of us have never heard, but that might be real accounts of his missing years. 3. The growing years of Jesus. According to Ethiopia's ancient scriptures, Jesus' so-called lost years were anything but ordinary. They were the years when he began to understand who he really was, the time he awakened to his divine nature. He wasn't just a gifted child. He was a young man learning, growing, and testing his powers. One famous story tells that one day, young Jesus was playing by a river. He shaped some small birds out of clay, then softly said, "Fly." And the birds came alive, flapping their wings and soaring into the sky. The children around him were shocked. Even the adults didn't know what to say. Another story says he once helped his foster father, Joseph. Joseph was building a wooden bed but accidentally cut one board too short. Jesus walked over, touched the board, and gently pulled it, and it stretched to the right length. It wasn't just a miracle. It was practice, a way to learn how to use his gift in daily life. There's also a story that at just 7 years old, he debated with rabbis about the law, and his answers amazed everyone. Someone asked, "Where did you learn all this?" And he replied, "It comes from the words written for me before I was born." These stories show a side of Jesus that's both powerful and human. A boy with divine strength, growing, learning, and experiencing the world just like us. 4. Did Jesus travel to the east? Here's something even more interesting. Some of these ancient writings suggest that young Jesus actually traveled far from home. He might have journeyed through all of Israel, maybe even to Egypt, or farther east. Some believe he could have gone to India or Persia, where he might have learned about spiritual practices and meditation. If that's true, then the wisdom, compassion, and openness he showed at age 30 weren't just gifts from heaven. They were also the result of real experiences, deep observation, and years of learning. 5. Why aren't these stories in the Bible? Many people ask, if these stories really exist, why aren't they in the Bible we have today? To answer that, we have to go back to the 4th century. At that time, the church started collecting and organizing different writings, deciding which ones would become the official Bible. They used 3 main rules. First, was the book written by or directly connected to an apostle? Second, did the message match the main church teachings? And third, was it already being widely used by believers? The problem was, the childhood stories of Jesus didn't fit the second rule. Some of them sounded too miraculous, like Jesus had full divine power even as a little boy. That idea could make people forget that he was also fully human, not only divine. There was another issue too. In the Gospel of John, it says that turning water into wine at the wedding in Cana was Jesus' first miracle. But if he had already performed miracles as a child, that would create a contradiction. So, church leaders chose to keep the version that fit better with their theology. But the Ethiopian church developed separately. They weren't influenced by those decisions, so they kept more of the old traditions. In other words, the stories preserved in Ethiopia might actually be the original versions passed down by the earliest Christians, the ones the mainstream church later left out. 6. Wisdom, protected by time. For centuries, Ethiopian Christians have gone to incredible lengths to protect these ancient texts. When enemies invaded, or during times of war or persecution, they would hide their Bibles in caves or even bury them underground. Some manuscripts were written on animal skin and stitched together with gold thread. They were passed down carefully from generation to generation. Even today, many of these handwritten scrolls are still kept safely inside old monasteries and temples. Modern scholars are now working on digital projects to scan and preserve them, so that people all over the world can finally study and understand their secrets. 7. Science and the echoes of history. Here's something really interesting. The connection between Ethiopia and the Bible isn't just about faith. In the Book of Kings, the Queen of Sheba from Ethiopia visits King Solomon. According to an ancient Ethiopian book called The Glory of Kings, they had a son named Menelik I, who became the first emperor of Ethiopia. The story says that Menelik later returned to Jerusalem and took the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest that symbolized God's presence, and brought it back to Ethiopia. He placed it in a temple in the city of Aksum. Even today, locals believe the Ark is still there, guarded day and night by a chosen priest who is never allowed to leave the temple. And in 2012, researchers at Cambridge University found genetic evidence that supports part of this legend. They discovered that around 3,000 years ago, the time of King Solomon, people from the Middle East and Ethiopia really did mix and form new communities. It's as if science quietly confirmed a small piece of that ancient story. 8. The value of the lost scriptures. So, what do these non-canonical stories actually mean for us today? First, they help us see a more complete picture of Jesus, not just the all-powerful Savior, but also a young man who learned, grew, and felt human emotions. A soul that awakened step by step. Second, they remind us that spiritual growth never happens overnight. Even Jesus went through years of searching, learning, and awakening. That truth gives hope to all of us, that growth takes time, and that's okay. Third, these writings show how rich and diverse early Christianity really was. There wasn't just one Roman version of the faith. There were also Ethiopian, Syrian, Indian, and Armenian traditions, each with its own wisdom and understanding. Together, they form the full picture of Christian history. 9. Rediscovered in our time. In modern times, discoveries like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi Library have reminded us that early Christianity was far more diverse than we once thought. Many ideas, stories, and books existed side by side until centuries later, the Church unified and edited them into the Bible we have now. Today, thanks to technology and global research, the ancient Ethiopian Bible is finally being studied again. Scholars are translating and preserving it, and even some mainstream churches now admit, while these texts aren't part of the official Bible, they offer priceless historical insight. 10. The light, hidden by time. My friends, the lost 18 years of Jesus may never have a single, certain answer. But the Ethiopian scriptures remind us of something powerful. Truth doesn't disappear. Sometimes it simply hides in forgotten corners of the world, waiting for the right time to be found again. That's the strength of faith. Even through wars, colonization, and chaos, the Ethiopian people have protected this wisdom for nearly 2,000 years. While the Roman Empire has long crumbled and great churches have divided and fallen, Ethiopian monks still pray in their mountain monasteries, guarding those fading scrolls, waiting for the world to listen once more to the voices of the past. Maybe those lost years of Jesus were never really lost. Maybe time simply kept them safe until we were ready to understand. If this journey made you think, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because next time we're going to explore another forgotten truth of history. See you in the next video.